Swords and axes and shields, oh my! I got the chance to sit down with Laine Visser, a Dark Age enthusiast. Along with practicing the arts of chainmailing and leatherwork, he is also a proficient user of Germanic longsword and various Scandinavian combat techniques. He filled me in on some of the wonderful world of living history. For SATE Newsfile, I'm Nick Reed. What drew you to the living history?
Really the fantasy of it all and the ability to think that even though we're in the modern day world that we can still reenact the Viking culture or the Germanic culture or the Italian culture from say, 1500s. The fact that there's still people dedicated to learning that history is something that drew me to it very much. A lot of the mysticism you could say behind the Vikings and the knights and all the deeds that they did, something that's interested me since I was a kid. And it's just something I've always wanted to be, always wanted to do.
So what's your favorite part about the culture?
My favorite part is the fighting, the combat, the learning of the combat, how evolved our martial arts were when so many people think we are nothing more than two brutes swinging at each other with 50-pound swords back on the medieval battlefield. It was the exact opposite of that, actually.
Can you describe to me some of the more important parts of a longsword?
Longsword, there's a lot of technical terms, especially in the Germanic system. You have the strength and the weakness of the blade, which is referring to the two parts of the blade. The part closer to the crossguard, which is the steel bar that protects your hand. That part is called the strength, and then the part that's farther away that point towards the enemy is actually called the weakness. And the principle is when you get in a bind, which is when your swords meet, you have that split second sense if the opponent is putting enough pressure on the sword or too little pressure on the sword. And that gives you the hint to what to engage with, either with the weakness or the strength of the blade. If I'm going for the weakness, chances are I'm going to try to hit you with a thrust or a backing out cut. If I'm coming at you with the strength, probably means I'm just going straight for the cut and going to try to, do a dismembering blow.
How does your leatherworking and chainmail tie into all of this?
Really, once again, relearning techniques that are dying art. How many people can say that they really make chainmail armor anymore? It's something that most people have forgotten about, that someone that actually used to sit down and do this for a living. And it's a very tedious and time-consuming hobby, but at the same time, when you see the end result, it's very satisfying. And the fact that I can sit down and say, yeah, I made that shirt that's patterned off a 13th century style chainmail hoppergun. The fact that I can say that and that I hand-built it is very much involved with it. And the fact that I did hand-build it as opposed to a machine making it, that goes a very far way in this community. Same with the leatherwork. From leatherwork from the sheaths to the armor to something as simple as a belt or a pouch that you put on the belt. If it's handmade, it's kind of to the period.
So how does this differ from LARPing?
Big difference between us and the LARPers is we're wearing real armor and we're using real steel. The LARPers are typically, nothing against them, but they're hand making their armor out of carpet and plastic, stuff like that, so it protects them, looks the part, but it's not actually going to stand up to a real sword. Where what we do is the real deal. Full steel, full plate armor, balls to the wall, we go at each other, it hurts. It's the best way to put it, yeah.
What are some groups in Calgary that people can check out?
They have, you have the Dragon Zone, which focus kind of on the medieval style combat, Sons of Fenrir or the Viking era. You have the Scola Gladiatoria, which is the gladiator reenactment group. That's a pretty neat group to watch. Obviously the gladiator style of combat, very flashy, not so much with the mortal wounds in that, but that was the point, is the Romans wanted blood, so you went for the superficial blow. Yeah. So it's a very flashy, artsy style of combat almost, when most people, once again, would think gladiators are nothing but two brutes going at each other in a ring.
What is the community in Calgary like?
The community in Calgary is very inviting, a very good place to be. It's almost more like a brotherhood. It's almost like a sense of family once you're in it. Everybody kind of looks out for each other, everybody helps each other out. We try to give a good deal to the people that are involved in the community as much as we can. We still are a business, we still need to make money, but if, say, one of the guys from Sons of Fenrir comes in and there's a helmet he's after, but he needs a little bit of a break, we're willing to do that for him because he's a fellow member of the community. Right? He supports it, and he may have a completely different interest in history than I do, but he supports it nonetheless more than I do. You know what I mean?
So in a fight between someone equipped with a Viking round shield and sword, or someone equipped with just a long sword, Who do you think would win?
When it comes down to the warrior or the fighter themselves, you could put, Jonas Lichtenauer, who is one of the fight masters from the 15th century for German longsword, up against, say, a guy like Leif Erikson, who has sagas about him cutting boulders in half with his Dane axe. Like, you got two pretty badass dudes going up against each other, but it really comes down to who's the better warrior. The weapon, not so much.
Well, many thanks go to Laine. I never thought I'd be able to get a history and a combat lesson in the same day. For SATE Newsfile, I'm Nick Reed.